And as he studied Napoleon's late troubled campaigns, Scott realized that he had what I've come to think of as a discipline deficit in Mexico. He looked at the law at his disposal, and he realized that the United States Congress had never given the United States military the authority to prosecute even its own soldiers when they were outside of the United States. U.S. soldiers committing crimes against the civilian population under the Articles of War enacted most recently in 1806 had to be sent to state authorities for prosecution. But if you were in Mexico, there were no state authorities to send U.S. soldiers to. Maybe the Articles of War had been especially jealous of American constitutional procedure, criminal procedure rights for American soldiers, and had wanted to send them to civil courts, but there were no American civil courts to send soldiers to. In one episode, late in 1846, Zachary Taylor writes back to President James Polk and Secretary of War William Marcy and says, "I have a volunteer who's killed a Mexican soldier after combat has ended. What do I do with him? I don't know how to deal with this offense against the laws of war." And Marcy and Polk wrote, "You're just going to have to send him back to the United States and let him go free. The state courts won't have any authority over his crime because it wasn't committed in their jurisdiction, and you don't have the legal authority to engage in any prosecution." Now, Taylor meekly sent the man back, but for Scott, this was an outrage. There was no way he was going to be able to have control and discipline over his forces if he did exactly what it was that the discontented soldier most wanted, which was to send him home. So even before Scott goes to Mexico, he's pushing Polk and Marcy to get legislation through Congress that will extend to commanders in Mexico the authority to carry out military commissions or courts-martial. The problem is the courts-martial jurisdiction, which exists, doesn't extend to U.S. soldiers committing crimes abroad. So he asks for an extension of the court-martial jurisdiction. The Congress declines to do this. It says Polk already has the authority under the laws of war to do it himself. Polk says, "I don't have the authority to do it," and so Scott has to step in and do it himself. And so in early 1847, he takes matters into his own hands. And in February, from Tampico on the east coast of Mexico, he issues an order, General Order Number 20. And what General Order Number 20 does is it creates military commissions. And it creates military commissions as a solution to the twin problems of U.S. volunteer depredations in Mexico and guerrilla warfare. Over the course of the next year and a half, Scott's military commissions prosecute more than 300 U.S. soldiers who are prosecuted for things like murder, rape, the desecration of churches and robbery, and the destruction of private property. The military commissions also prosecute Mexican inhabitants. General Orders Number 20 purported to take jurisdiction not just over U.S. soldiers, but also inhabitants of Mexico. And General Orders Number 20 and the military commissions help contribute to, in the post-war period, a kind of mythology of the chivalry of the United States conduct in Mexico. William Marcy, the Secretary of War, after the war is over, celebrates and crows about the extraordinary adherence to the laws of war, unparalleled, he thinks, in modern history that the United States has shown. And it's Scott's efforts to build the laws of war into the military commissions that Marcy's most proud of.